Our first model from scratch is going to be my laptop here. We're going to need to use a few images in what we call our rotoscope view within XSI to basically outline the laptop and create the necessary geometry. So I've taken a series of digital images of the laptop, usually a separate shot of each different side, which we're going to use to create our rotoscope images. In Photoshop, or a similar image editor, you can simply create an image that contains all the views. I've already prepped this image for you, but once you start creating your own objects, you'll find those techniques very useful. Okay, so let's switch to XSI and get going. Before we get into the real nitty-gritty modeling of any object, there are a few techniques and assets we'll want to have on hand, just at the front of our minds, which are going to make our lives a lot easier. In a minute, we'll talk about the importance of reference images and rotoscoping, but before that, I'd like to refresh what we know and maybe add a couple details on duplicating symmetry. So let's get a polygon mesh, a sphere. Scale it by pressing X on your keyboard, and then move it left along the X-axis. Notice that here is the center of my XSI universe, so the sphere is to the left of the center. You can see the X translation value is a -2. The universe's centerline, or 0, 0, 0, is slightly thicker and darker than the rest of the reference lines in XSI. Now if we were to select our sphere and choose Edit, Duplicate Symmetry, then hit OK by default, we'll get a duplicated sphere in relation to the center of the universe. If we move our sphere a bit closer, and then middle-click Edit to again duplicate the symmetry, you'll notice that the duplicated sphere is mirrored an equal distance from the center of the universe. Curves work in the same way. If we draw a curve, something like that, and Edit, Duplicate Symmetry, it's going to mirror on the right. And if we draw to the right side of our center, it'll mirror it to the left. Now if you happen to forget to work along the center line of the universe, or you're working further away for another reason, after you duplicate the symmetry, you may not immediately see the duplicated object. So if you lose track of your object, it's best to zoom out to find it, or even just check in the Explorer. At any rate, it's important to work near the center of the universe if you're planning on duplicating, or at least keep track of where that center line is. Good. Alright, now let's start working with the rotoscope views within XSI. Go to Display Mode and select Rotoscope. And by default, the drop-down menu is only going to have the no icon pick image. So we're going to click New, from File, and in the Database 101, select Laptop Image. And this will place the image within the rotoscope view, in the back of the viewport. So now we'll do the same for top view. Select the same image. And then again in the right view. Now get a cube and scale it to about the size of the laptop keyboard. It doesn't need to be exact. Now by holding Z, you have the option to move around in the view or zoom in and out. You'll notice that the rotoscope image is actually staying in the same place. It's only the coordinate grid that is moving. So by moving and zooming the grid, you can align it to more or less the proportions of the laptop. Now right now would be a perfect opportunity to save a camera memory by clicking the middle mouse button on any of the available camera memory slots. This is going to be useful because if you happen to accidentally zoom or move your grid, it can be very difficult to return to exactly where you were. Once it's recorded, all you have to do is left-click on the slot, and you'll return right to your previous position. Also, this is important. Once you get your grid aligned how you like it, it's a really good idea to click this little magnifying glass icon, which will lock the grid to the rotoscope image within the view. Now if you use Z to zoom or pan, the rotoscope image will move with the grid. And you can press Shift-Z to draw a rectangle zoom. If you release the lock, it can be difficult to center again. Maximize the view. So recenter, lock again, and then we can get to work. So remember that camera memories and the grid lock will be your best friend when you're working with the rotoscope view. Alright, let's switch to the top view. And I recommend you position the center of your universe to the center of the laptop, which is right here, just about in the middle of the power button. Right about there. Then, save a camera memory, and make sure your lock is on. Shift-Z to rectangle zoom to the keyboard, and let's get to work. Let's draw a curve, following more or less the profile of the keyboard on the laptop. Following the profile, around like this, tweak it a little bit, just to get it as close as possible. More or less this way. We have the curve, a little better. There. Select Duplicate Symmetry. And we use the default values, and we get a symmetric curve. Select the two curves.
Switch to the Model panel.
And we're going to do a merge. Create curve, merge. Alright, it's going to ask from what point to what point. So select this one and this one. And the two curves will merge. And we close it. And there we have it. All right, we'll delete the other curve. And now we have our profile. It's a curve. It's not a solid, so it has no surface. So we got to give it a surface. So we'll go New, Polygon Mesh, Curves to Mesh. Let's switch our view to shaded. Explore the operator. Select Extrude. Let's give it a little bit of volume. Just a little bit. Like so. Yep. We can add a little bevel to make our edges nice and round. So give it a bit of bevel there. Add a bit of height, a little bit of depth. All right, let's get closer. Like so. Height 4. And we have a smooth edge. We're going to work with the bevel only on the top side, because on the bottom side we're going to do things a little bit different. Just uncheck bottom. Let's just make it a little bit smaller. Just to make it smooth and lose the squareness of the piece here. On the bottom side, we'll follow more or less this profile here. So select this polygon, and in display options, go to camera, display, and let's select the headlight, which will give us a light underneath the object so we can see things a bit clearer. Select the polygon, duplicate, move a little bit, zoom in, and scale a little bit. It's going to help to have this piece here so we can see it more clearly. And we can follow the profile underneath. So we scale it a little bit, duplicate, and translate, like so. More or less. Alright, you can see the software is trying to smooth this bottom side.
Switch to the Edge tool.
With Alt and a middle click, you can select Edge Loop. And you can see here where it's trying to smooth and round. So we right click and mark hard edges to correct the problem. And there we have our bottom side. The top side is similar, but we're going to do a two-sided bevel. Polygon mesh, curves to mesh, extrude a little bit, a little less in the bottom. Bevel on both sides. Like so. Return this to its origin. We reset this one. Turn off Rotoscope. And just leave the one on the top with the images.
And on the top of the screen, we want to move the center anchor point backwards. So choose Center in the Select panel, and then translate that anchor point back to the back edge.
So this way, when you rotate the object, you'll do it on that back axis. So let's freeze the models. We can delete the curves. To make it easier to apply our texture, let's move the screen back into a 90-degree vertical position. 90 degrees vertical, enter. It'll be a lot easier to texture this way. Alright, let's start applying some textures.
We need to apply a new material so we don't modify the default by mistake. Choose Get, Material, Phong. Same for the screen. And let's start there.
Select the screen, change to render, go to texture image, and select the clip from the list. Alright, go from new and select XY.
Alright, we need to go back and modify our projection so we display the texture correctly.
So select support, or click edit here, and go to texture support. Let's change to XZ.
Make sure you have the laptop screen selected.
Now we can select the texture editor window. So open in vertical. And what we're going to do is separate the UVs so we can adjust them later. So press T and we can select all the points. Or we can select them in our perspective view. Could be a little bit easier. Point tag. With the V, we move. Or we can click on T and then move. Scale them a little bit. And move. Alright, the rest is pretty easy. We're going to select the polygon, in this case the screen. Select translate. And we start moving the points around. You can zoom in, use F to frame, and scale. And you see that here the screen is inverted. It's flipped upside down. So go to Tools, Mirror Vertical, and we readjust. Scale it a little bit. With the M tool, and with our proportional on, we can adjust it a little bit. Right-click on proportional.
Experiment with different proportional values to finesse your curve. Make sure it's lining up as best as you can get it.
Or we can just select these points without proportional. 0.05. Just like so. The other corner. Turn on proportional and adjust a little bit here. That's okay. This one here. And this corner here. More or less like this. And we can tweak it more later on. Let's just do it a little bit smaller. Move it a bit. Alright, we'll return to adjust details. Okay, turn to the back side. Select the polygon and move it. And place it in the back of the screen. Same thing. Tools, mirror vertical, and adjust. Center it, and adjust it. Left click to scale uniformly, middle click to scale vertically, and right click to scale horizontally. So I can take these points, for example, move them next to these points, place them, these points, like so. Alright, all the remaining parts are the sides. So we can select them all and select a new projection. We can try some different projections. XY, XZ. Scale a little bit. And we'll just place them in the gray part of the screen. Just to get a little bit of color. Like so. Now let's work on the keyboard. Texture image. Select the clip. New XY. In this case, we can go to the perspectives. In the top view, we can see it's an XZ. So select XY. We can see it's not correctly placed, so we edit. And we go back and select XZ. Return to the texture editor. Select all the points. Move them out on the layout. Select the keyboard polygon. Move it. Scale it. And adjust it. Like so. A little bit more here. Now let's do the front.
So select the front polygons like this, using U, the Raycast Polygon Selection tool. Switch to the user view. Then expand the window in vertical, and we'll switch to the texture decal view.
And select them. Let's select this one too. Like so. Okay. And we need a new projection. So select front projection. Best fit, we'll try to guess. XY. And we have it. We can go here and see that it's projecting the correct way. Yep, it's correct. So we can start placing it. Place it and scale it. Like so. A little bit more. Here we can see that the green indicates the meeting edges of the polygons. And it can distract a little bit. So we can turn it off with this button up here, right there. Yeah, now it's a little less distracting. We can still adjust it a little bit more. So now we need the sides, the back, and the bottom. So we select the rest of the polygons
from here to here. Selecting the entire side, curve to curve.
Here to here. And from here to here. There you go. Now these little guys too. Select the projection. See which one we want. It's projected correctly. And now place it. Scale it. Zoom in. And place it. And just keep moving the points around. Like so. The same for the opposite side. From here to here. Select these polygons. Okay. Same projection. Scale it. Move them. Zoom in. Now, the back side and the bottom. Select the bottom. You can see it's also inverted, so we flip them. Tag the points and adjust. Still, we have the back side. So select the polygons. These ones. These ones. And all these ones. New projection. So that is correct. Zoom in. Let's adjust it here. Scale it. There you go. A little bit more. And we got it. Alright. The following step there. We should have all the texture projections. It'll freeze. It may take a couple seconds. There we go. Now we can rotate the screen up a little bit, just to make it more natural. And save. We can even make, by pressing Q on the keyboard, a render region. So if we get our model at an angle that we like, File, Save As, select the database, an icon, and it'll save a thumbnail from our render region. If we do File Open, we've created the icon. Since we have the two pieces, we can merge the model.
If you plan on making adjustments later, then I'd recommend grouping the objects instead. But since merging is going to be necessary before we can import any props into the game, let's run through it now.
Polygon Mesh, Merge, Hide. We want to copy all the materials in the UVs. And now we have a complete model of our laptop here. And so take a look at the Polygon keyboard. We'll need to fix the textures a little bit. You can see how the keys on the keyboard are a little skewed. Let's press Alt-7 to get our texture editor. Select the clip. With the selected points, let's go to Tools and Relax. This will expand our texture and help make it a little more even. I'll do the same with the screen. A little skewed there. Tools, Relax. Just check out the bottom. Or we can just middle click on Tools, like so. And there you have it. We're finished with our laptop.